Good morning, friends. Hope all is well. During the pandemic, I'm outside at 5:30 in the morning. I've actually been up. Oh, lighting's gonna be shit, so just listen. I've been up since 0200. So for my non-24-hour time friends, that means 2 in the morning, 2 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, just in case I need to clarify. I randomly woke up at 2 in the morning, went on Facebook, and I'm letting social media get the best of me, admittedly. And it's more about voting Joe Biden and why I really don't feel the need to do so. So, this is probably a rant that most people have heard, but I'm going to continue anyway while I'm sleep deprived. So, we'll see how far these arguments can even go. So, a lot of things that have been going online. A lot of people are really good at voter shaming. And I hate to tell Biden or bust people, it's not going to work. Hear me now, quote me later, but it's not going to work. A lot of the arguments I've been seeing online are, if you don't vote for Joe Biden, that's a vote for Trump, which is complete horseshit. And it means, actually, that's harsh, but it really gives an ignorance about how our electoral college system works in our democracy. Because for all I know, if I vote third party, I mean, I live in California, so like it or not, Joe Biden's going to win no matter what. So if I vote third party or if I decide not to vote, then that means my vote went for Joe Biden, if we're going by that logical fallacy. In my opinion, a vote for who you want is a vote, but I do understand that we do live in a two-party system in our representative democracy within this quote-unquote great republic. But this is one of the arguments I have trouble with because what it effectively does is it shames a democratic base that could, for um, lack of a better term, be open to the prospect of voting Joe Biden. Now, there have been two arguments that have been the most effective on me in getting me to further concede to voting for Joe. Granted, at the moment, what is it, May 7th? I haven't even looked at the time. I'm so tired. There's two arguments that have been made that have been quite effective and that haven't involved voter shaming. One was from a random stranger online who effectively said, the way that I look at it is voting for Joe creates a blank slate. He's indicated that he's going to be a one-term president if he wins, and from there, you have Donald Trump off the table and you have Joe Biden off the table. So that way you can further get a progressive candidate or someone who is more in line with your ideals. Now, this is a very effective argument, I got to say, and this is from a stranger who admittedly wanted to vote for Andrew Yang. And it's quite effective because it doesn't involve any form of shaming. It doesn't shame me for my beliefs. It's just more of a like, hey, this sucks now, but later we can make it work. Totally effective. Like, that's a very effective argument. The second argument was made by my Uncle Don. My Uncle Don is actually one of the most intelligent people I've ever met in my life. It's a shame I don't talk to him more, but that's because I'm a terrible nephew. I'm not justifying it. I'm just telling it how it is. I need to reach out to Uncle Don. Love you. So he also talked about um, the benefits of voting for Joe comparatively to having another 4 years of Donald Trump. Oh, Booster's here, by the way. He's my little puppy. Um, Joe Biden is more for a public option, which would be beneficial for everyone because that means these fucking birds, man. Because that means that's one less thing for their employer to have to deal with if there's a public option. That's one less benefit that they have to pay for. Not to mention, and I'm doing my best not to strawman my uncle. He means well, and his video that I watched, I've had to listen to it a few times. just to be sure that I understand his argument. So I'm trying really hard not to strawman here. Um, he effectively said, you know what, party, unfortunately we have to go by party, is more directly with my alignment in terms of political ideology, which, that being said, out of this two-party system, would effectively be democratic. Granted, if I could, if it were effective, I'd vote third party, which I have considered. No matter what, I am going to vote. Um, so he outweighed the benefits between Trump and Joe Biden, which I've never disputed. Joe Biden is unfathomably better than Joe Biden. What is this guy doing? He's driving on two sides of the road in the same direction. Okay, that was really weird. He's a smart man. Um, and don't get me wrong, I totally get it, but when I say I'm trying not to strawman his arguments, I say that because effectively it's still a lesser of two evils argument, which I get. Like, unfortunately, that's what this election has gone down to, and I'm letting my feelings get in the way. I'll totally admit that. My feelings are getting in the way in the sense of that's not what I want. I don't want to vote for lesser of two evils, but I might have to. Again, I'm not opposed to voting for Joe Biden in the sense of I'm not afraid to apply pressure onto him. I'm one person, and like, it's not like my YouTube videos are gonna reach out to a shitload of people. I only have 8 subscribers. Ooh, I'm doing well on the YouTube verse. The point being is, and again, not to strawman my uncle, but I think it's a lesser of two evils argument, and I don't agree with it. And my whole thing has been outreach to non-voters. That's a big part, and not just Bernie or bust people. I mean, I might fall under the Bernie or bust category. I don't believe I do because I'm not opposed to voting for another candidate. But at the same time, that candidate needs to further appeal to me and my ideals, along with many of the Democratic base's ideals. For instance, 60% of the Democratic base are for Medicare for all. Joe Biden has openly said, not doubled down, but he's tripled down in saying that he would openly veto Medicare for all if it were to pass. I guess it might have something to do with his corporate donors, but you know, what do I know? Um, totally lost track of what I was saying. Point being, oh yeah, it's for non-voters. So I don't know if anyone remembers this year. It's 2016. Yeah. Oh yeah. When Hillary, what was it? What's the word? Lost. And a lot of that was due to non-voters because she couldn't invigorate the base and actually get people to vote for her. So that's a part of the problem I have with Joe Biden. And hear me now, quote me later. I think he's going to lose because he can't invigorate the base and actually get people to vote for him. I don't say this proudly. I say this because I don't know. I have a odd sense of deja vu at this moment in time, but you know, it's it's a few months too early, over 6 months too early. So I could be incorrect. I'm open to being incorrect. I don't mind being incorrect. I hope Joe Biden wins, but he's not going to win off of my vote at the moment because he's not willing to make concessions and he's not willing to get people to participate in our democracy. So one of the things that my uncle brought up is that in my county, San Diego County, overwhelmingly we have a Democratic base here. Yet our our elected officials are Republican. What does this mean? This means that people aren't voting. And that's a problem because that means that you're not participating in our democracy. That being said, with Joe Biden and many of the Democratic candidates that we've had, many people feel that they shouldn't participate in our democracy. Now, our democracy isn't exactly the most effective of all democracies in the world. In fact, I'd say it's highly ineffective. I mean, if you want more proof of that, look at who's in the office right now. And that's my problem with Joe Biden is I don't believe he has done nearly enough to get people to vote for him. So with these Biden or bust people that I've been seeing online, a lot of it is fall in line. You have to do this because you have to do this because he's better than Trump, which isn't a good enough argument, in my opinion. I think there needs to be more. And I think that people ultimately go soft. Go soft. I consider myself a leftist. I'm not a liberal, if we're talking connotations of neoliberalism, which is essentially what we have right now within our Democratic Party. Excuse me. I'm getting winded. Maybe I shouldn't walk the dog when it's supposed to be a hot day and it's 5:45 right now. I don't know. Oh, okay. So Joe Biden has a huge uphill battle right now, and I'm not like, look, again, if he can invigorate the base and get people to vote for him, like, I hope he wins. But at the moment, based off of polling numbers, he has a huge uphill battle. Honestly, I'm not a fan of Joe Biden. I'm openly not a fan of Joe Biden, but I'm not the only one who feels this way. Out of thousands of people in the progressive base, at least. So, what's Joe going to do to invigorate more voters? One of the things that he should get behind, because 60% of the Democratic base is for it, he should get behind Medicare for all. Well, what's he going to do to win over independents? At the moment, doesn't look like much of anything. That's another problem I have is, another argument I've seen is, if you are a registered Democrat, you have to vote for Joe, no matter what. Well, turns out, during the primary in California, I have been registered as an independent. I forgot I did that years ago. And from that, I had to register Democrat in order to vote for Bernie Sanders. Now, this is a huge misnomer because it indicates that based off of party affiliation, you are required to vote for said candidate. No, I'm not. I'm required to vote for the candidate who I think is the most capable in the elected office. Yes, is this flawed? Of course, yeah, because if I vote third party, my candidate is guaranteed to lose in the general election. That is just how our democracy works, especially with the Electoral College, which is a hugely flawed system, but conservatives will fight for it every single fucking day of their lives. Oh, fuck. I'm out of shape. um, so, at this moment, I'm basically repeating myself. I'm not voting for Joe Biden at this moment in time. I think he has to do more to invigorate voters. I am active in being knowledgeable about this political system and the candidates. I have been up to date with Joe Biden. And frankly, Joe Biden hasn't done enough. Now, I could be incorrect about this. But as far as I've known, as far as the polling goes, polls aren't exactly accurate. They are fluid. They are not static, or whatever the word I said that. But it's subject to change, and at the moment, Joe Biden isn't doing enough. So, how are you going to get more people to vote for you? Look, you need large voter turnout if you're a Democrat. This is why Republicans hate, that's why they practice voter suppression, which is a shame to say, because, whew, God, whew, I need to go on more walks often, right, Booster? But you have oftentimes. So a lot of conservatives talk about voter fraud, which is a load of horse shit, in my opinion. Actually, no, it's not even my opinion. It's been stated as fact that um, voter fraud is extremely rare. Compared to election fraud, we had this in Georgia not too long ago, where when you showed your ID, you had to have very specific
parts of your ID. So had a if you were on the paper and you had a middle initial in your ID, this is from what I remember. So if you have the ID and the middle initial doesn't show on the registry, well, you'd have people be like, well, we don't have the middle initial on here, um, so you can't vote. This is election fraud, effectively. People want more and more, more and more and more stakes to have less and less and less people participate in our democracy. I got off. I got off subject. I'm sorry. The point being is Joe Biden needs to do more to get independent voters and non-voters, especially non-voters. There are there's a copious amount of young people who don't believe that they should participate in this democracy because effectively, and in some cases they are correct, it doesn't represent them in our representative democracy. What a huge contradiction to be seen. So, what is Joe going to do? And admittedly, I'm going to say it. I said it once, I said it twice, I said it 3 times, I'm going to say it again. Handsy Uncle Joe is overwhelmingly better than Carrot Top or Carrot Man, whatever insults. He's orange. That's the point. But Joe needs to do more. I'm effectively repeating myself on this. But don't, for my Biden or bust people, don't shame voters. I can guarantee you, and it's happened over the years, it happened in 2016, it's going to bite you in the ass. Because effectively, what you're saying is you're either voting for Joe or you're fucking up. And that, I don't know, that negative reinforcement? I'm not a psychology guy. But it doesn't work. It hasn't worked. It didn't work in 2016 with Hillary Clinton. Yes, she did win the popular vote, but she still lost the election. Now, what do you think you're going to do for people in a swing state? Are you going to tell them vote for Joe, and if you don't, you're the fuck up here? I disagree with that. Highly disagree with that. That's up to handsy Uncle Joe Biden to get those votes. He needs to be fighting for those swing states. He needs to fight in the Rust Belt. The voter is not obligated to vote for Joe Biden. Joe Biden needs to work for those votes. And I need people to understand that. He needs to get people to go out and vote for him. He needs to be the one on the campaign trail getting people invigorated for him. And Joe Biden has a pretty weak base, especially compared to Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders had the largest grassroots movement in all of American history. So, thus far at least. So, Joe needs to work and get those people to vote for him. This is what I've basically been saying. And in order to do that, a lot of his policies need to go further left. Now, if you've noticed throughout the years, in the United States, especially since the 90s, the Overton window has been going more and more and more to the right. That said, I gotta say, thankfully with Bernie Sanders, that Overton window is slowly going more left, and talking about policies that would actually benefit the American people. So it has forced candidates to have a more populist form of rhetoric. So that's why Joe is more for a public option. He's better on immigration. He's better on um, education. He's way better than Trump in so many ways. Like, you're not gonna get me to say like, oh no, Biden is worse than Trump. That's not true. It's entirely untrue, especially from my political philosophy as a leftist. What I'm most disappointed in, Jesus Christ, is that many people have already succumbed to the notion of like, you got to vote Joe. You just have to. No, why would you not apply pressure onto Joe Biden? I believe, and please correct me if I'm incorrect, applying pressure onto Joe Biden would actually benefit the American people in the sense of if his rhetoric goes more left, like he's more for public college, he's for a living wage, which he has stated he's for a living wage. So I'm not disputing that. If you push him further on Medicare, if you get him to go to with at least one populist policy, it would be an overall benefit for him and for us too. Anything's better than Trump, but just because something is better than Trump doesn't mean that it's entirely good enough. And that's something that needs to be worked on, especially. Um, so I don't know. We'll see how it goes from here. I hope people don't strawman me and are actually considering what I'm saying. They're open to listening because what's happened the most online, especially, is that my argument is being highly strawmanned. A strawman argument is someone is presenting an argument that I haven't made and they're knocking it down. Conservatives are really good at this. Um, People are telling me that I would rather have Joe Biden fail to make a point. It's like losing the war, but in order to prove victorious in a battle. This is horseshit. This is stupid. I don't want Joe to lose, but I want him to be better. He has major room for improvement. People who are telling me that I need to vote for Joe Biden, I'm not obligated to vote for him. He needs to come and get my vote. He needs to get a majority of the American people, well, not a majority, I'm sorry, but he needs to get a large portion of the American people to vote for him. So it's up to him. It's not up to me. Like I'm not gonna phone bank for him. There's plenty of people who will argue with me online who won't phone bank for him. Why the fuck should I? I'm not even for him. So anyway, I need to get some sleep when I get home. Just realized like as I'm recording this, the sun's slowly coming up. So in the meantime, um, thank you for listening. Have a good day now. Oh, it was night. Jesus Christ. Have a good day. Dudes.